So, let's review my positions on this. Um, I was an advocate before they signed their last contract of not necessarily bringing the Sedins back. Of saying, all right, they're probably done as number one first line guys, and maybe it's best for the Canucks to move on. When the Canucks re-signed them, I was like, all right, well, they're going to retire as Canucks. And I've been okay with that since then. Henrik and Daniel penned a letter to the city of Vancouver, and I'll link it in the description of this video. And it's very heartfelt. They've always been great ambassadors on and off the ice, and they've taken a lot of flack for their non-physical nature, which is weird. I still find that really weird, because there's been a lot of superstar players who are Canadian and American who weren't expected to fight and weren't expected to be these big physical type players. It's just not their game. But because they're Swedish, and because it's the Canucks, and there's plenty of fans of other Canadian teams who hate the Canucks, they're easy targets. There's a lot to be said for continuity with an organization. Sometimes it can go a little too far, and I'm looking at Detroit and saying they're, and I've said before that their dedication to certain players has likely doomed them, and to some extent what's going on in Vancouver with their rebuild is because Mike Gillis decided after 2011, all right, well, we got to keep this team together. And I think if they had kept Schneider and let go of Luongo first before everything got ugly, I think they would have been better off too. But that being said, throughout all of it, Daniel and Henrik have never complained. They never complained for ice time. They never complained when Tortorella was here working them into the ground. They didn't complain during that either. They always said the right things publicly, and I never heard they were saying anything improper privately either. The Vancouver Canucks organization has always treated Henrik and Daniel right, and Henrik and Daniel have always treated the organization right, and they've treated the city of Vancouver right. When they came to Vancouver, they were 20 years old. Their rookie year, they were 20 years old. From then until now, 16 years later, all they know is Vancouver. That's a long time. And they've raised their kids in Vancouver. They know Vancouver fans know them. And I've never heard of anybody being talked to in a rude manner by one of the Sedins when asking for an autograph. And I would imagine there's an obnoxious level of autographs being asked for. The one thing that I always wonder is, let's say you meet Henrik, does he sign it as Daniel just for kicks? And vice versa. Does Daniel sign as Henrik? Do they pretend they're each other? Is that the one thing that they would do as twins? And actually, that's a question I would ask them if I had the chance. Do you guys, when you're aggravated by being asked for too many autographs, do you just sign as each other, just to mess with fans? It's not like it would matter. I often look at autographs on eBay and go, you could have wrote that yourself. I don't put a lot of stock in autograph pictures. I don't really ask for autographs. I've always found the whole autograph thing weird. So you've got your hero standing in front of you, and all you can think is, I want to take this pen here, and I want him to write something on this piece of paper, so I have his name. You know his name. He knows his name. You know he knows how to write his name. Why don't you ask him something else? How's it going today? You having a good day? Just talk to him about things. I've always found the whole autograph thing weird. And I've often wondered, like, maybe it'd be better for these guys if you just talk to them. I remember when I was DJing at I was DJing in Vancouver, in Chilliwack, and Major Leagues. I was going to say Major Leagues too, and it's like, no, just Major Leagues. And BC Lions players were there, and including Damon Allen. I never asked for an autograph. I talked to them. I knew who they were. I knew who Louis Pasaglia was, and I would never talk to him. And I talked to them about, like, regular stuff. And if there was something on the news on TV, I'd say, can you believe this? Or something like that. You know, I would talk to them the same as I'd talk to anybody else. So what I found was, while I was in the booth, some of the players were coming over to talk to me a few times. Because I wasn't just, you know, I never asked for an autograph. I didn't care. And I think that's got to be refreshing sometimes for these guys. So, circling back to the Sedins, they got to get hassled all the time, and it doesn't seem to be a problem for them. In fact, in their love letter to Vancouver, they're quite content with staying in Vancouver for the rest of their lives. And that's their intention. There doesn't seem to be an intention of, we're going to finish out our careers in Vancouver, and then we're going to move back to Sweden. Which I think all of us expected. And I don't see anything in this letter to say, yeah, no, we're going to move back to Sweden once our careers are finished. When you're raising kids, you got to worry about schools, and schools are tricky because not all schools are created equal, not all teachers are created equal, and if they're in a situation where they've got a good school and their kids are happy and they're doing well, a trade and moving, well, then you go and you leave your family to stay in Vancouver, and that would just stink. And it doesn't matter if you're making $7 million a year. Not being around your family is going to affect you, and it's going to affect you adversely. I always had a feeling with Roberto Luongo that there were games where he had poor games that I thought, I wonder if there's something going on at home that's got him distracted. Because, you know, his wife and kid, they're in Florida, and he was here. Couldn't be further away. So all those millions of dollars don't help. Not really. So I understand them wanting to stay in Vancouver. I also understand Canuck fans wanting, let's get something back for them. Those days are gone. You're not going to get a lot back for them. Let's just say just that they get traded at the deadline. You're not going to get more than a middling pick or a middling prospect. And with them talking about meeting Jonathan Dahlen after the trade with Ottawa and realizing they played with his dad and how old they are and how this kid could be my kid, I really think as mentors, I think they can be really good. I do. I think the Sedins, I could see them staying with the Canucks organization after they retire as both ambassadors and for outreach. Community outreach and to work with young players. All the panic coming out of the Young Stars tournament. I just like to point out that nobody who's won a Young Stars tournament has won a Stanley Cup in a while, so it's not really a big deal. And nobody who's lost a Young Stars tournament has had it adversely affect their season. So, again, it really isn't a big deal. But the Sedins can be good for that. The Sedins can help with that. And if you haven't read the letter, I highly recommend it because they talk a lot about the city. They talk about the grouse grind, which I've never done. And I'm tempted to. I'm tempted to, and yet I know Yvonne won't do it. There's no chance she's going to climb a mountain 3 miles. No, there's no chance. I would probably want to do it as a challenge to myself, just so I could tell people I did it once. Which kind of I had with the Peak to Peak at Whistler, but that's completely different. And I'd imagine the Sedins have done that one too. Probably with a lot less terror than I felt going across from Whistler to Blackcomb. But again, that's just me. I honestly think the Sedins retiring as Canucks is an optic that will help the Vancouver organization for years going forward. Imagine if Joe Sakic had been traded, or Steve Yzerman had been traded, and for the Sedins, they're as important to the Canucks organization as Sakic was for Colorado and Yzerman was for Detroit. And I get it. There's fans around the league that don't respect Henrik and Daniel, and that's fine. I'm not going to win any of you people over. That's not going to happen. But for those of us who've watched Henrik and Daniel for their entire careers, like myself, I've watched them mature, I've watched them become great players, and now I'm watching them transition into being good leaders, mentors, and veterans. And yeah, the cap hit is high for what they do. But honestly, if they finish this year and they say we still have another year or two left, and the Canucks brought them back next year at, say, $3.5 million per, that wouldn't bother me in the slightest. For what they bring to the team, and for what they bring to the community in the city of Vancouver, they're paid right about where they should be. And they give a lot of that money back to the community. So, props to them. And honestly, props to the Canucks organization right now for not panicking. Rebuilding your team doesn't mean throwing everything away and starting just completely bare. If you throw everything away and you start completely bare, you're going to be at the bottom of the league for a very long time. And it's a bad idea. So, scorched earth doesn't work. And I'm glad that the Canucks aren't going to do that. And I'm glad the Sedins are staying. As I said, I highly recommend reading the letter. It's going to be in the description. Read it. And let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And I know this is 2 Canuck videos this morning, but it's the news I'm hearing locally right now, and it's the news that's on TSN as well. So I figured I'll go ahead and throw this up there and see what you guys think. But I'm done for now on this topic. We'll discuss other topics. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.